and districts coping with the education new normal, so to speak?
Yeah. What we are doing now is we are in the middle of discussion on when to open classes. Now, while we have already decided that it will be opened on August, the definite date is still being discussed. And we are still taking into consideration all other minimum standards that the Department of Health and the IATF have required for the either opening of classes or going to general community quarantine, or if the quarantine status will be lift up, no? So anyway, ang isa yan sa pinag-uusapan natin, yung opening of classes no, sa August. Pangalawa ay how to deliver education, learning and teaching, how to deliver this in a mix in mixed modalities or in other different kinds of platforms kung ano man, dahil hindi naman lahat ay may internet, hindi lahat may cellphone, hindi lahat may device sa bahay, kaya inaayos natin ito kung ano-ano yung mga yugto na dapat natin ayusin para sa ganun ay may deliver natin yung education. While we have determined August to be the opening month of classes, it does not mean that during the August period, we will be meeting the students face-to-face inside the classroom. That we are still determining kung kinakailangan ba talagang magkaroon ng face-to-face, kinakailangan bang study at home, kinakailangan bang homeschooling, kinakailangan bang 1 week lang appearance sa eskwelahan, all the rest ay sa bahay na mag-aaral, anong klaseng platform yung gagamitin, and so on and so forth. These are the things that we are now discussing at the Department of Education, including what we call some non-negotiable requirements before we return to schools. No? Ano yung mga kinakailangan natin ma-establish sa loob ng paaralan bago pumasok ang mga estudyante, ang mga guro, at ang mga personnel o administrators ng mga eskwelahan na yan. So we have that kind of minimum health standards that we need to define and that we need to do from here on until the opening on August. And maybe within August until such time that we will be meeting face-to-face inside the classroom. So these are the things that we are busy discussing and formulating some proposals or programs and projects to be implemented just to make sure that the opening of classes will be addressed properly.
All right, so thank you, USEC Alain. With USEC Alain. So welcome back, USEC. So if you noticed, I think if you can see the live comments, I think all the high schools in the Philippines and the elementary schools, the district offices are watching. So it's a good thing that this is really a significant thing for us in Bounce Back PH, because a lot of us in the core are mostly SMEs and entrepreneurs. But then again, like for the first time, we're having this one for the education sector, and next week we will have it for the tech, voc, and training sector with TESDA and other training institutions. So, but for now, how do we transition USEC Alain? For example, we know for a fact that DepEd, when I was still in Congress and until now, has the biggest budget in the country. But the problem is, sabi nga nila, when we like do our strategic planning, when we budget for DepEd and all those executive offices, we didn't budget for COVID-19. So, yeah, what do you think will be the shifts? What paradigm shifts? What shifts in terms of budgets and allocations will happen? Because DepEd will be the key game changer here. And what's on DepEd's mind now? Or from your lenses, what do you think is the best solution? Like, for example, a public-private sector partnership to really make this faster, make the delivery of education accelerate?
First of all, even though DepEd has the biggest budget now in the government, that biggest budget is still not enough to address all concerns of the Department of Education. I'll give you an example. part of that biggest budget is a budget on school buildings or classrooms. We were asking for more than 170,000 classrooms last year in order to address the classroom shortage. But DBM only gave us just about some amount good only for about 40,000 classrooms. So how would you compare now that kind of budget that has been given to you and then on the basis of what is needed, no? Kahit na malaki yung budget mo, pinakamalaki ka sa pamahalaan, pero hindi pa sapat yan para ayusin yung mga kinakailangan ayusin sa ating kagawaran. Now, of course, we did not budget for COVID, no? And this happened this year, nag-i-start pa lang tayo, ay lumabas na ito. So, quick what they call shifting. For example, before we start classes now, we need to establish all the non-negotiable factors or non-negotiable items that we need inside the classroom or inside the school. For example, potable water, hand washing facilities, disinfection equipment, health and hygiene kits. All these things would eat up much of the budget that we have now. For example, instead of repairing classrooms, we now go on repairing and constructing wash facilities. Why? Because wash facilities are the first kind of intervention that we do when it comes to health and hygiene, no? Washing of hands. No? Kaya kailangan nasa school yan. Oh, how about, for example, even before they enter the school, kailangan mo kaagad ng temperature indicator, and this is about 50,000 schools that we are talking about. So even though a small amount of temperature indicator or a gun temperature gun would already cost so much. Ipapasok mo pa yung readiness ng school, PPEs, disinfecting equipment and chemicals, and all other things. Hindi pa tayo pumapasok ngayon dun sa different modes of delivering education. This is just preparing the schools for the safe return to schools of our learners, personnel, and our teachers. So, yan pa lang, malaki na. And we might not be able to address all these things for the next 3 months if we start today. Kasi nga, hindi naman ganun kabilis ang pag-procure, hindi rin ganun kabilis ang pag-rehabilitate, renovate, or construct. No? We may need to have quarantine facilities in every school, and that would mean we will be establishing clinics in every school. We have clinics now, but they are only about 10-20% of the entire schools have clinics. So we might be establishing new clinics in all other schools. So yan yung mga facilities-wise pa lang. No, second, we need to prepare also our platform on how to deliver teaching and learning in various modalities, whether they are face-to-face with social distancing, non-face-to-face, which means either study at home or homeschooling. So these are and then what kind of materials and what kind of support will you be providing with all these kinds of modalities? That would mean also enhancing our platform that we have now. We have DepEd Commons, enhancing the LR portal that we also have. We have also alternative modes of delivery and education, but we might go further. We might need to establish educational television, educational radio, but this matters when we would want, if we would want to reach out from the cities to the countryside, would not be undertaken within the next 3 or 4 months. No, these are also long-term plans and long-term projects that are not easily implemented and not easily established. So, but we have to start with that. That is now the framework that we have, since this is the new normal, and every now and then this virus there will be outbreaks because of this virus and similar viruses. Then we may need to set up all these things that we can activate at any given time.
Yeah, it's quite providential, USEC, that I think the guests that we have today are actually, there it is. All right, so there's so many loose ends that we really need. I mean, it cannot, of course, the government has resources, but also limited resources. And among all the departments, I think DepEd is the most spread all throughout the country, and yet the teacher to the education sector is so huge. And then we have questions on how about values? How do we teach values also online, or if it's not face to face? So let me go to other questions. All right, so here, good afternoon. There's people watching from Misamis Oriental, Batanes, everywhere. Online classes will be feasible only if all have internet access. Resources are limited. Pupils from public schools are poor. But, this is true. And despite this reality, we have a bar top notcher who's the daughter of a jeepney driver, and another bar top notcher who's coming from a poor family. So I think this is not impossible. So what do you think? How do we address the issue of resources? We in Bounce Back PH believe that maybe there's a way where we can coordinate resources and really go to the last mile. So how do we do this? How do we establish e-classrooms or virtual classrooms? Yeah, can we have Alain or Yusuf Alain or anybody?
Yeah, let me put something into proper perspective. For
Yeah.
example, we have several objectives or specific objectives when it comes to the DepEd response on COVID-19. No, first, no, we have to protect the well-being of the learners, the teachers, and the non-teaching personnel, and prevent the further transmission of the virus. That's number one. No. Second, even though with COVID-19 there or whatever crisis we have to ensure education continuity through the K to 12 materials, various modalities, different kinds of trainings, etc. There should be education continuity. We cannot, at any cost, we cannot stop education. No. We have to continue that. No. And then the third specific aim there is we should facilitate the safe return of our teachers, learners, and even non-teaching personnel to work and to schools, no, based on these different scenarios. But then again, who will dictate the minimum standards when it comes to the health and when it comes to the question of the virus? It will always be the Department of Health or the IFTF. They have classified already the different minimum standards that we need to observe. No, and we might be following up that kind of approach. For example, every city, every province, every town, every region may be classified in in accordance to the risk that they have. Do they have a low risk situation? Do they have a medium risk? Do they have a high risk? Are they in GCQ or ECQ? Because all these scenarios and all these what they call status would determine what kind of delivery mode will we need to apply. Okay. And then second, there are things that we can change and there are things that we cannot change. For example, in the Philippines, uh, not all areas in the Philippines have cell phone signals. That would already be an indication that in several areas in the Philippines, we cannot deliver education via online or via internet because not all areas have signal of the cell phone. No? And we cannot do anything about this within the next 2 to 3 years because these are telco based and these are not even the Department of Education cannot even change this kind of situation that we have. But what are the other technology that have reached until the last mile schools, the so-called last mile schools? Well, we have television, we have radio. But then again, we'll have to, another question is, how do we apply education in TV and in radio? Are we equipped at this moment to a broadcast of teaching and learning in the classroom through the use of TV and through the use of radios? Maybe can set that up within the next 3 months. But which channel do we use? Oh, we will not be able to only deliver education for the kinder for 1 hour a day, for the grade 1 for 1 hour a day, or for grade 2 for 1 hour a day. then you will need not only one channel, but about 3 or 4 channels in delivering that. And the same will be true when it comes to the radio station. So all these things can be taken, all these technologies can be taken in totality, and to apply all these things in areas where there are different kinds of status when it comes to the risk of having this virus, whether they are low or they are high. No, what we are telling is that there are existing frameworks, there are already proposed frameworks, and there are tractions, or there are proposals that we need to do. We have to combine everything. There is no one-size-fits-all solution to all these things. And we will be needing not only the efforts of the entire government, but of the private sector and the community. We need to collaborate with everybody and to have a delivery of these things, because even the number of devices that we have in every household is even being questioned right now whether they are correct or not. Now, for example, the data that we have in the worldwide scenario is that the Filipinos, or the Philippines, have 153% penetration of cell phones inside our country. 153%. No. But 153% might be good only in urban communities where a person can have 1, 2, or 3 cell phones, but not in other areas. No? And we need to be guided by all these statistics and all these situations that we have in order to apply the kind of modality or the kind of learning and teaching that we need to employ. Again, there is no correct or mono solution for all of these things. Every situation, every area, and every kind of platform will be used, and we need to see to it that we can deliver all these things. But one thing should be sure here: we cannot stop education. We have to continue.
Yeah. Based on your analysis or your initial assessment, in which areas of this transition to a new normal or a digital transformation, in which areas do you think the schools need help the most?
At the moment, maybe the most possible areas that we may need several kinds of interventions are those areas under ECQs, because under areas under ECQs, we cannot resolve this matter in the next 2 weeks or in the next 3 months. This will go on and on. No, remember, our community quarantine, have been resorted to not to remove the virus, but only to hinder its spread. No, we are not killing the virus because of the quarantine. Oh, what the quarantine is doing is only to slow down the distribution or the dissemination of this virus. So once the ECQ or the GCQ, General Community Quarantine, will be lifted up, and if the people are not ready to still observe social distancing and all other preventive measures, it will spike again because the virus is here. No, we have not yet resolved the killing of the.
That's right.
So sir, dito po sa mga areas under ECQ, ano po yung nakikita niyo that the schools would really need help with, like connectivity po ba, platform, content, or gadgets? Like if the private sector were to come in a concerted effort to assist education, paano po makakatulong?
Yes, essentially, for example, what we did when the community quarantine kicked in this a month ago, is we have to introduce DepEd Commons. No, the DepEd Commons is already in our program, but not to be launched at this time because it's imperfect, it's incomplete, there are so many loopholes, etc. But when the quarantine came in, we were forced to make it live. Why? Because there are still some lessons undelivered for the last quarter of the year. That's the first thing that we need to do. So we populate DepEd Commons with materials that would answer the last quarter of the year. to deliver that last quarter of the year. And then after that would be on how do you deliver the assessment or even the grading of the students, which we have resolved that in another computation, in another formula, and in another approach. This time, what we are now preparing, how do we deliver education for the incoming school year, where there will be first quarter, second quarter, and third quarter, and fourth quarters under this condition that we have. We will be approaching and we will be calling upon the private sector and all other sectors of society on contributing all the learning and digital contents that we can provide for every grade level and for all across all sectors of society, so that our learners can access these materials, whether they are face to face, whether they are at home, whether they are homeschooling, or whatever modality of teaching and learning do we apply in any of these status or in any of the areas that we have, whether they are low risk, high risk, or medium risk. The important thing here is we make all their learning materials available, maybe at one place, maybe at different places, but we make all these things available, and the learners, parents, and teachers can access these materials, whatever the kind of modality that they have or that they will employ. So what we did right now is to, for example, we called upon the support of Globe and Smart, make access to the DepEd Commons free. And they readily answered to us and said, yes, we will zero rate DepEd Commons. And that's so we already have a solution when it comes to loads. Even children, parents, and teachers with zero load in their cell phone can access the DepEd Commons, can access the materials. So that's one big leap that we need, that we have right now. But the second question right now is that not all materials in the DepEd Commons are inside DepEd Commons, because there are some others are links only outside of the DepEd Commons. That when you go outside of the DepEd Commons, you still have to incur that kind of load or that kind of rate. So this is what we are now resolving right now, that if possible, with all willing educational partners, to put all the materials in the commons in a certain kind of protocol, so that when students, teachers, and even parents access them, they still enjoy that kind of free access. No, and that's one of the difficulties that we're having right now. No, so because there are some initiatives that are voluntary at this time and that are free, but there are still some initiatives that might incur expenses on the part of external partners, and that we also have to respect. No, but at this time that we are doing these things, we are now looking at some kind of a collaborative platform or a partnership alliance where we can pull in whatever digital resources that we have, digital contents that we have in one place or in several places, and have them accessible to all our learners and teachers, whatever is the modality of their teaching and learning style would be. No, that's what we are now looking at. No.
Thank you. Yes.
Just to, it just came to my mind right now, the areas where we have ECQs and we have the high risk of the virus and high occurrence of the virus are urban cities.
HUCs. Yes.
These urban cities have the kind of signal that we would want to have when delivering education in their school, in their home. Okay, and when we look at the last mile schools or last mile communities, where there are apparently no occurrence of the virus, there are some isolated islands, isolated mountainous areas. These are what we call the last mile schools. The last 20 to 30% of our learners and our population. Ang maganda, wala yung virus doon. They can still have that class that we normally have. They can have face-to-face classes. No, so kahit wala silang internet doon, pwedeng ituloy doon yung face-to-face. So that's one consideration that we're looking at. Ang talagang delivery natin ngayon ng digital contents, nakafocus tayo dito sa urban centers. Nagkataon naman sa urban center, mataas na yung cellphone ownership, mataas din yung cellphone signal occurrence. Kaya pwede naman natin pagsamasamahin yung mga yan. No? Hindi pa rin maiiwan yung ating mga last mile schools.
That's right. That's right.
Thank
So before we go, can we have USEC Alain who give us a last word?
Thank you everybody. Thank you Nato. Maraming salamat sa pag-imbita nyo sa akin dito at sa ating mga ibang panelists. Maraming din salamat sa pag-volunteer nyo at magsama-sama tayo para maibigay natin yung karapat-dapat na edukasyon sa ating mga kabataan. One thing lang that I would like to share to everybody is that we are looking at ways in the department to actually open school year come August. No? Gusto nga namin mas maaga. Ang problema lang, ang magdidikta sa atin dito sa pagbubukas ng klase ay hindi yung kagustuhan ng Department of Education, hindi yung kagustuhan ng marami sa atin. Kung hindi, kung ano ba yung epidemiology ng virus na ito, ano ba yung risk na meron tayo ngayon dahil sa virus na ito. That is the one thing that is dictating us on the date of the opening of classes. Not because we feel we would like to open immediately classes or that we should start it as soon as possible or delay it a bit, etc. Yung epidemiology talaga ng virus at saka yung risk. That's one thing that nagsasabi sa atin kung kailan natin dapat simulan uli ang pasukan. Anyway, pwede naman tayo magsimula kaagad pero hindi naman kinakailangan face-to-face doon sa mga lugar na mataas ang risk. At doon sa naman lugar na walang risk, pwede naman ituloy katulad ng ginagawa rin natin dati. Anyway, ang isa pa namin tinitignan dito ay kung paano ayusin yung buong school year na matapos ang school year natin next year na hindi papatak sa summer. Dahil ang ating mga eskwelahan ay hindi nakadesign sa summer study. O mainit ang ating mga eskwelahan. No? Sa dinami-dami ng design ng mga DepEd schools, when we start redesigning these schools, we redesign them kasi dapat malakas ito at kayang hindi siya dapat na magalaw ng bagyo, ng earthquake, o ng ano paman. But we forgot na kinakailangan palang i-design din ng ating mga eskwelahan para pwedeng mag-aral ang ating mga bata, ang ating mga teachers kahit summer. But that design is not available to us right now. Kasi nga, hindi ito nakita for the last several years. Kaya we might be instituting several changes again on para hindi tayo umabot sa summer period, para hindi mainit yung pag-aaral ng mga bata at saka mga teachers. No? So maraming po salamat sa inyo. Maraming salamat sa pagpunta niyo rito. We need to bounce back. No, there's no other alternative. Thank you.
Thank you, USEC Alain.